right, I am joined by my buddy Jerry Ostrowski, whom I still don't believe I have to do this for people. There are people in the comments that don't know who or what Jerry does. Jerry was an All-American at the University of Tulsa. Bob Hope said his name. Played 10 years in the NFL. He's one of the smartest individuals on anything that I've ever met, and particularly about football. Jerry, how you doing, man?
Doing good, RJ. What's going on, man?
Well, I want to talk about game day headed to McLean to see this game between Oklahoma and Baylor, but I don't know what to think exactly here because, frankly, I got some questions.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
So, in opinions, but I want to ask first, the spread I saw, 9.5 points to Oklahoma. Is it too large? Is it too small? Where are you figuring?
Well, I don't think it's. I mean, I don't think it's too large. But after last night,
right?
I don't know if it's too large or not. I don't know. I look at Baylor. I've seen Baylor live. I've seen them play against Oklahoma State. I wasn't crazy impressed with their defense. They've definitely gone to the undersized scheme type stuff that a lot of teams are doing, especially in the Big 12 with all the spread stuff. Safeties are now playing inside linebackers. They're just getting smaller and smaller across the board. You got a nose guard who's, 5'10", barely 6 foot, 350.
Yep.
And they're just, they're running and trying to play coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing what they do defensively, I personally think that Oklahoma should have a day with them. Now, I thought they should have a day last night with Iowa State too, but as we know, that scheme in Ames is built completely around eliminating the big play, which, we saw right off the bat, DB's fingertips are on the football, CD still catches it, barely misses a sack. I mean, there's a little bit of luck and timing in there as well, but, your guess is as good as mine now. I mean, 9 points, who knows?
So you brought up a couple of interesting points there. The first is the scheme. They changed from a 4-3 to a 3-3-5 this year, and it's working for them in a way that I didn't expect it to. It really, when Clay Johnson was in it, you could see how it was singing because he held everything together. But Blake Lynch is the guy you're talking about, who is the safety turned inside linebacker. And then you got Bravian Roy and James Lynch doing a lot of the work there. The Bravian Roy being the nose tackle and James Lynch being the end, who was just sacking people as man, in that scheme, just to be that good at end is uncanny because they don't give him a lot of help. He has to beat two people to get to the quarterback. But it's also not as if they're just especially great on the back end. And yeah, Oklahoma should pick them apart because you should be able to run the ball. But damn it, man, that ain't something Lincoln wants to do with running backs.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, RJ. You made the best point of probably this conversation we're going to have. Baylor is set up to run the ball against. Oklahoma should have a field day running the ball against Baylor with their tailbacks. It doesn't have to be the Jalen Hurts show where we're running him 25 times a game. I personally wouldn't mind seeing them do some stuff that Tulsa did in this last UCF game where they involved Keelan Stokes and got him the ball in the backfield and let him run the ball because I'll go ahead and get it to CD any way I possibly can.
They did that.
I don't care if we got to go Wildcat and let CD take the snap.
Yeah, you ain't gonna see that from Lincoln Riley. He hates that.
Well, I understand you're not going to see it, but I'm just telling you, you want to talk about playing to the strengths of your football team. That guy's the strength of your football team right now, but also so is Kennedy Brooks. And I think so is your up front. I think the O-line's playing well. We had some conversations about Creed Humphrey. I think you might be a little bit correct. I mean, let him have 3 or 4 running plays in a row and let him go eat and let him have a little bit of fun. I mean, this constant, play action, shuffling sideways, dropping back stuff gets old after a while.
No, and to bring the audience in on what we're talking about here. So Jerry had an interesting observation that Creed was just playing flat, just didn't have a nasty edge to him against Iowa State. And I was like, because, we're basically at the time we're watching the game, so we're not talking to anybody, we're guessing, and they've kind of spoken to this and they will, but I told him they're not really calling any plays for the offensive line to have any fun. And that's what it is. It's fun to run block. It is fun to rub people's noses in the dirt. And there were a couple of plays in there where he flat lit up some inside linebackers on some blitzes because I guess he was as pissed as we thought he was. But also, you're talking about play calls because against Texas, you saw the jet motion to CD, right? You saw them actually make him a focal point of what they were going to do against that particular secondary. And the strength and weakness of Lincoln Riley is he's going to call what's on his play card. Whatever he put on that little piece of paper, that's what we're calling tonight. We're not calling anything else. And against Kansas State and Iowa State, you could see what wasn't enough of the stuff that we like to see on that sheet. But on the other hand, he ain't going to deviate from what's on that sheet because this is what he had schemed for. So what is he seeing against these two defenses that flat out don't have the talent to run with you, and yet what they run it with Iowa State and Haycock, they run, and they run well. And this is your first look at Hazleton and Kansas State, and I think you're going to get better with them next year. I think a lot of the W's they got this year might be reversed because people know what they're doing now. But those are the only two teams in this league that don't run some variation of, the 4-2 concepts. I mean, we see some 3-3-5 stuff from Oklahoma State, but they've shifted from a 4-2 concept to that because they just don't have the personnel. So when you look at Baylor, I asked the question, where do you attack Oklahoma? And then I asked the question, defensively, where do you attack Baylor? Because you've given up an average of 44.5 points in the last two games to 5-4 Iowa State and 6-3 Kansas State. So what do you expect to do against Baylor and Charlie Brewer, who can light you up?
It'll be interesting because there's something about Brewer that I really, really like.
No, I like it too.
Brewer is a tough dude. And I think that Baylor, what's funny is we always think about Baylor as this soft spread team or whatever, not very physical. But under Matt Rhule, they're changing a little bit. I think Rhule's got an edge to him. Rhule coaches with an edge. He's got an attitude. I think the team's starting to take that personality. I think Brewer's a big part of that.
Can we get him to stop dressing like a crossing guard at the intersection? Can we get him to stop?
No. Well, you won't have to watch him very much longer because I'm sure the big, huge extension's coming. Which did he already get that?
No, he already got that.
Yeah, he already got that. So the next thing coming is the call from Mara to be the head coach of the Giants. I mean, Rhule will be in the NFL before too long. I mean, that's his destiny, and that's where he'll be. I think he's done a well of a job at Baylor, righting the ship after all the controversy and everything that's been down there. I think offensively they're going to grind. They're going to try and get Brewer the ball in his hands and make plays. Again, I don't really even think they're not the dynamic team that we've seen in the past, but they're still pretty good. They can run the ball a little bit, but I still think this whole game really goes back to what are we doing? What are we doing offensively? And you brought up so many good points about Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley and his play card. Are we getting to a point where he knows they got to run the ball, but if we line up and I get Kenny the Brooks the ball 25 times, 30 times, or that group of tailbacks the ball a lot, then I take Jalen out of the game. Now all of a sudden I got an issue with Jalen, so I know I got to run the ball, so we'll just go ahead and let Jalen run the ball because he came here and was so gracious to give us a year. I don't know if that plays into it or not. I'm just saying that is this his way of trying to keep the quarterback involved? Because if you really go ahead and call plays the way the defenses have been giving them stuff, it all of a sudden looks a lot like Alabama did a few years ago where Jalen's handed the ball off quite a bit to talented tailbacks and making a passing play when he needs to.
I think that in this instance, it's not about what you got to do to keep Jalen happy because he's done nothing else except make clear that he just wants to win. He doesn't care what it looks like. And it's turned into this offense that looks a lot like the Houston Rockets with James Harden, right? Where he's going to get buckets. We know that. But the offense is suffering because the ball's just in his hands. And it was also interesting to think about what would it look like for Kennedy Brooks to get 25 carries because he hasn't in his career. He hasn't carried the ball 25 times in one game. And that's not necessarily what Riley is ever going to want to do with those backs. But seeing him get the ball 15 times against Iowa State and knowing that I think that's the most this season that any tailback has carried the ball at one time, you want to see what he looks like with 20. But also, this is a guy who has, every time he goes out there and he gets 5 to 7 touches a game, he's averaging like 8-9 yards per carry. And last year, he was this close to averaging 10 yards per carry. So if you're going to hand the ball to somebody, hand it to him, because there's lots of, I mean, you've seen him. He knows where the hole is. He knows where he's going to have space. And that is the part of his game that is just, you can't teach and is underrated. It's just vision. You know, I saw some of this, you know, with Josh Jacobs with Oakland, right? Playing Los Angeles. Let's put that one in the penny jar. He was just, they were stopped, and he found a way to get positive yardage. You saw it with Najee Harris, Alabama against LSU. They were stopped. He found a way to get positive yardage. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he ascended to that upper level where your mind, body, and soul must be one. And he was dragging Alabama defenders. Like, he figured out, I can do this. And I think if Brooks gets the same opportunity, he will too. He just doesn't look like what you would think of as a feature tailback, right? And now, depending on what's going on with Trey Sermon, it's him and it's Ramondre. I mean, you can run TJ Pledger if you want to, but it's him and the 235-pound cat who just is bigger than the people chasing him. So
right.
I want to see what this offense looks like if they run the ball 40 times, but they give the ball to the running backs in 35 of those attempts as opposed to 22 for Jalen like he had against Iowa State.
I want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do. I want to see it. And again, I'm going to go back to it again. I really believe somehow, some way, they've got to go back to what they were doing at Texas with that fly sweep motion, getting the CD involved, letting him have the ball. I just want him to – do you see what he does when he runs with the football? I'm being facetious, but it almost gets silly. That catch he made last night running across the field and then scores a touchdown, that was one of the best runs I've ever seen.
And Matt Campbell stabbing himself in the thigh with the pin over it. He was not –
Exactly.
He was hot. But he put the ball on the ground too, dog.
That's like using the broken plastic spoon when you're playing track and field on Nintendo, man. You got the extra advantage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And if you got the extra advantage, you ought to be just hold on to the ball, dog. Like you had the 8 catches. The Biletnikoff Award seems like they're gonna give it to you because who are they gonna give it to? They can't give it to Tylen. You know,
right.
That sucks. Like that, I was sick over that when that news popped. But you got, no pun intended there. You also got Justin Jefferson. You got Jamar Chase. You got the Charlie's Angels trio of wideouts over at LSU. And I know that people love them some Jerry Jeudy, even though Devontae Smith's probably the best wideout they have this year. I'm going. What? Go ahead.
I was going to say Jerry Jeudy had a couple of crucial drops yesterday.
Yeah, one of those he actually got to make up for, and he turned into 6 late. But right. Yeah, there was one that just it hit you in the hands, dog. Like he couldn't have handed it off to the tailback any more accurately than he threw it through the air to you. But exactly. Jeudy for me is Hollywood Brown had a better season than he did, and Hollywood was hurt. And Tylan Wallace had a better season than Hollywood Brown did, and yet they gave the best wideout on the best team as opposed to the best wideout. So advantages for Oklahoma. We think the offense, right? But I'm not prepared to say that it's that big of a difference, especially after what we've seen. And then the defense, man, like Grinch is saying stuff like, this is my fault. We had some embarrassing stretches. They had some matchups that they obviously were able to exploit because, they in that 2-point conversion play, they had 6'6", 6'6", 6'6" lined up at various places at wide receiver. And I was going, oh, goodness. And I got stopped earlier today at the gym by a dude. He's like, hey, man, I know you don't necessarily talk about stuff at the gym because it's your time and whatnot, but please tell me that we got somebody that's 6'2" playing corner in the recruiting class. It's like, nah, you just lost that guy. That guy's committed to Ohio State now. He was in, now he's not. Because that's what it is. And it's not even that you have to be that big to play defensive back. It's that when Buki's matched up on a tight end that's the size of Charlie Kolar, I'm going, what's he supposed to do?
Yeah.
That's like yelling switch when you got LaMarcus Aldridge on Trae Young. It just ain't going to work, man.
But again, the Ohio State, well coached, they took advantage of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That was like matchup number one. They were trying to figure out any which way they could to put Buki in a bind. And they did a good job of it. But this is what I like, and I know college football coaches and how they are, especially guys like Grinch, guys that, the D3 dude that was a scrapper that was, I mean, you heard the stories last night on the telecast, there was 25 safeties and he ends up playing and he's a life, all this stuff. I mean, Mount Union D3 kid, we get it. But the deal is, I wish sometimes they would just they would be more like Coach Beatonbow and just tell the truth and say, look, man, here's what's up. Okay. We're size limited to begin with. And now we're beat to death and we don't have, we're running on a skeleton crew.
Well, what happened to platooning kids in? You remember that? Like
Say that again?
What happened to platooning kids in? Because
yeah, exactly.
We were going, why is Kenneth Murray Jr. not on the field? And he'd be like, hey, we can't ask him to play that many snaps and have him fresh to win games late in the season. And I'm going, okay, is he not fresh now? Like what happened? Like, and you're coming off a bye week. So why aren't you just raring to go, man? You're coming off a bye week after a loss. Yeah,
but they're secondary, those, like when you go to a basketball team and you look at the lineup and I can go ahead and I can take my 6-foot guard out and I've got 5 more 6-foot guards on the bench. They all look the same. And you just keep interchanging them out and they all look the same. I mean, they're the same guy. And I think it's kind of what they're stuck with right now, especially with the injury situation. They're all the same. And they're just, they've lost a little confidence that they had earlier in the year. They lost a little bit of confidence they picked up with Texas. I don't know if all of a sudden they got, I can't say that they got complacent. I can't think that coaching staff or even a guy like Grinch, the way he talks and the way he rolls would allow them to get complacent. But it's just a situation where you just have to sit back and be honest. Personnel-wise, that level, they're just not that good right now in the secondary. And they're trying to get better, and they know it. And they're trying to target guys that are going to get them better to be able to play the schemes they want to play. But it's tough. It's a tough situation for them right now, and it's something they're going to have to work through. And, how do they do it? I mean, are you in a situation defensively now where guys are up front, the front seven are thinking they got to do too much? Is Kenneth Murray overrunning stuff because he feels he's got to make every play? It all kind of goes hand in hand. And there's definitely my big 50-cent word for the day. There's not much, homeostasis right now defensively at Oklahoma. I think where Baylor has an advantage defensively is they're going to try to do what they did to Oklahoma State and Sanders. Everybody knew Sanders was a prolific runner. He was very good on his feet. He wasn't a great passer. Basically, it was find out where Wallace was. If I don't throw it to him, pull the ball down and go.
Right.
I mean, all of a sudden, everybody's talking about our boy from Jinx being open or whatever. He was open all year. It's just that he was option 2. Now he's option 1, so he gets the ball thrown to him. But the thing that they're going to try to do is they do a really good job of staying in space, moving around, keeping the quarterback contained and not allowing the quarterback to make big plays with his feet and saying, okay, go ahead and throw the ball. We'll let you throw it. And I think that's what they're going to do with Jalen. I think they're going to put pressure on him to make plays with his arm. I think they're going to try to do a job of moving him off his spot, getting him moving, getting him rolling out and making him throw the ball on the move. And, I think that's where Baylor's going to try to go defensively, because if they just try to line up and play smash mouth with them, it's not going to happen. I don't think they're that team that's definitely going to line up, play a bunch of 1 and 0 all the time. I think they're going to try to create mismatches as far as with this 3-3-5 that they run, try to create some stuff blitz-wise, but they're going to try to contain Hurts and let him throw the football. I think they're going to move him off his spot and make him throw it because they feel that's their best chance is to make him beat him with his arm.
Okay, so let's talk about this from the standpoint of injuries, right? Adrian Ely went down. Let's assume, for the time being, in the sake of this particular topic, that he can't go. How do you feel about Tyrese Robinson moving out to play right tackle like he did against Kansas, and then moving Bray Walker in there to play right guard?
No, I don't have any problem with that at all.
Okay.
I don't see anybody. I didn't see anybody at Baylor. Like I said, they got their nose guard, and I don't know his name. I think
Bravian Roy.
Yeah, I think at one point he might have been about 400 pounds.
Oh yeah, he slimmed down.
He's about 6 foot 380. I mean, this is just a block.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anybody up front, pass rush wise, any, term we used to use, werewolves. I don't see any werewolves up front as far as guys we just got to, change our game plan and slide to every play. I just see a defense that they are deliberately going undersized. They're playing safeties inside. They're running to the ball. They're trying to create havoc. They're trying to create mismatches. They're trying to create, give you illusions of people being open and then taking stuff away. And if you want to study, I just think if you want to study what they're going to do against Hurts, you got to go back to that Oklahoma State game because it's very similar. I think when you talk about injuries up front, RJ, the best thing to do is to allow those young guys to run the football. That's why it's even more important to me to run the ball this week, because if you got new guys in new spots, it's a lot easier to run block than it is to pass block.
I wondered this too, because I made the comment, over and over again, that Hurts is not becoming the Lincoln Riley quarterback that we're used to seeing, in that Riley wants a quarterback, or has had quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, who like to have options. Like, there are several options within a play, and not all of them are routes, right? You just know what you see and you know what you can do, and they're really good at getting the entire offense involved, whereas Hurts strikes me as more the kind of kid that Trevor Knight was, in that you have to tell him straight up, this is what I want you to do. Because if you don't, he's going to go back to what his default setting. His default setting has now become, instead of one read, go, and then one read, two read, go, and now it's read the field, find something, and then pull it down and go.
Hurts would be, I see. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just ask, should you just put more belly plays in there? And by belly plays, I mean just stick the ball into the running back's belly, as opposed to going, you got an option here, and I'm going, he's not.
There are simple RPOs you can keep in.
They don't run a lot of them too. That's the other thing that bothers me. They don't run a lot of them. So the ones that they do run, he's gonna throw the ball or run with it.
Right. There's some simple RPOs you can put in, and what's funny is it's the most overused term right now in football. Everybody thinks Lincoln Riley, everything they do is an RPO. Most of it, maybe you could have said that with Kyler, maybe you could have said that with Baker. Definitely not Jalen. And that's not a knock against Jalen. I think you're absolutely right about your assessment of him. He'd do much better in a Gus Malzahn offense, because Gus is all about we're running this play.
That's a good point.
We're running this play against that defensive front. And if they're in that front, you're throwing it to that guy at that spot.
Right.
Period. And he'd be much better in Gus's type of offensive style, where he tells the quarterback where to go with the football at all times. And then the other thing is this: if you're supposed to go there and it's not there, then go be an athlete.
Right.
And
and that's Cam Newton. And that was
right, exactly.
And that was two tight end sets going, cool, we're gonna block for Cam or we're gonna spread you out. How do you want to die?
Right.
And the other thing that was interesting is, Cam's a butcher. He's not a surgeon. Like, you don't trust a butcher to do surgery, but you trust a butcher to cut your meat. Okay. So, in thinking about that, I was like, yeah, because what would you want to have in a Gus Malzahn offense? You want a quarterback that can throw the ball deep accurately. That's really it, because there ain't no intermediate routes in that game plan. It's all, we're running the ball with the running backs, or we're running some putt kind of offense where your man is trying to run one of these gimmicky plays that he drew up in the sand one day and put it in. Or, hey, we're just going to throw it deep to the fastest guys on the field. Seth Williams, Anthony Schwartz, just go. And I was going, you know what? Jalen would work in that. Problem is, he ain't been that damn accurate throwing the ball deep.
Right.
He's just had great wide receivers, especially to the corners. Like, he can throw it deep down the middle of the field. But if you ask him to throw it to a corner, he's going to need help, right? Which is fine, because you got these wideouts here. So that's an interesting observation. Now, that ain't in Lincoln's game plan.
But, I think one thing you do, you look at strengths right now, and you talk about letting OU run the ball. I also think, go back to, what you said, and I like that. I've never heard that saying before. You don't trust the butcher to do surgery, or surgeon cut your meat. I like that. Mm-hmm. But, I think that I know on the size of those inside backers and stuff, I like the guy that's 235 pounds against them one-on-one running the football too.
100%.
That's not a bad matchup either.
No, he had a quote in the post game last night. It was awesome. He said, "Hey, how do you get yourself prepared to take all those hits? Because 22 rushes, 68 yards, and the man walked in this time without without a suit, without changing clothes. He had his shirt cut off sleeves. He says, "I work out," and
Right.
I was dying because it was like clearly.
Well, the other thing he says all the time that I think is funny is like something will come down. He goes, "Man, I just want these guys to experience success and have a successful team so bad." Like he's basically saying, "I've already done this. I'm just coming over here to try to help y'all out."
Well, I mean, and that always terrified me.
Right.
That really terrified me because it's one thing to do it. It's another thing to want to do it with a different group of guys. Because like earlier in the year, you might not remember this, and I don't blame you if you didn't, but Austin Jackson transferred into Oklahoma as a grad transfer, walk-on grad transfer.
Yeah, the kid from Virginia, right?
Clemson.
Him? Clemson, okay.
Clemson. R.J. Proctor is the kid from Virginia on the line. So Jackson was a fourth-string safety who transferred into Clemson out of a JUCO because he wanted to play, and then transfers to Oklahoma because he's really close with Joe Washington, and Joe knew what we all seem to know now, which is you ain't got a whole lot back there at safety that you like, right? And he's like, hey, man, you might actually be able to get in here because they ain't that good. Turns out he ain't good enough to start. He's probably not good enough to rotate in. And the way the Grinch put it was like, nah, he's helping us on our scout team, which was polite and understood. But that's what it feels like when you bring in a guy like that is people are like, no, this guy knows how to win. And I'm like, he got a ring over there already. What's he going to do here? What drives him here? He wants to get to the NFL? Cool. That's like everybody else. All 11,000 kids in FBS want to get to the NFL. Cool. Jalen is going to get there. He was going to get there whether he played this year or not. Right? And that's what I found just it's like, yo, man, I wanted somebody with some want to it that hadn't been there and was wanting to eat it up with a spoon. And it seemed like Jalen was going to be that guy. And I think a lot of people wanted it so badly to be that guy. And I kind of want to get into this topic here as it relates to Baylor, as it relates to what OU's doing. I've made this point over the weekend. This team can get into the playoff at the 4 spot, but that team can't beat Georgia. It can't beat Clemson. It can't beat Ohio State. It can't beat LSU. Hell, it might not be able to beat Bama, even with the way that they're beat up now. And I find that wildly infuriating. I know that most programs that find that a win, your ceiling is, wait, you make the college football playoff again? Yeah, but if you're going to go in there and get embarrassed, what's the point, man? Now, the point is perhaps you go in there and you do something. But right now, the ceiling for the defense feels like the ceiling for the team. Because everybody's caught up to Oklahoma offensively. LSU, Ohio State, Bama. They know how to win with the offense now. They can put up 45, 50 points a game. But OU still can't stop them. So do you think Oklahoma can win a national championship with this team?
No.
Yeah.
No. Unfortunately, no. Here's one of my big, when I look at a team, and one of my big litmus test points is when I want to know about the overall athleticism and overall talent of a team, okay?
Recruiting.
Especially defensively, I watch special teams.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. I watch special teams because that's where you put, I look like, for instance, we follow a guy from LSU called Torrey Carter.
Yeah, but man, woke up pissed off yesterday.
Yeah, woke up pissed
on
off.
Saturday morning.
Living a dream. He's playing fullback at LSU, but he's on every special team known to man, and he goes downfield and just strokes people over and over and over again. I remember the Bob Stoops teams when he was coaching, and you're looking at their starting special teams, and it's full of starters. Brandon Everidge. I mean, there's these big, freaks out there just rolling downfield making plays. And when you look at special teams, I think it just shows your athleticism and your overall ability as a team, because even if your starters aren't there, but you got these backups that are rolling downfield and they're just smashing people, you're looking and saying, dang, they got a lot of depth. Mm. And they got guys that can come in and play. That's something I haven't seen out of them in a little bit. I haven't seen that from Oklahoma that I've seen in the past. And I think that's a verdict on, their depth issues and some things they have going on, especially defensively. But I think you're right. That team goes as their defense goes. If their defense plays well, they're going to be okay.
I want to run some stuff by you as it relates to what we're seeing from the top 10 teams in college football, kind of project them out, and then hit up the Arkansas thing here in just a bit. Let me flip the tape over, take a break for a second. All right, Jerry. So what I want to do is run through the top 10 recruiting list for the 2020 class and see how this matches up to you about what the top 10 teams are according to the college football playoff rankings as we think they might be projected on Tuesday. So check this out. Number 1, 2020 recruiting class is Clemson, which fits. Number 2, LSU, also fits. Alabama, number 3. Ohio State, number 4. Georgia, number 5. Texas, number 6. Texas A&M, number 7. Auburn, number 8. Notre Dame, number 9. And then Michigan at number 10, with Oklahoma at number 12 here. But if you go through this list, you'll see that there are teams that are totally underperforming their recruiting classes and also teams that are just right where you thought they would be. And I was thinking about this, and we do this thing all the time where we talk about the team talent composite, which is, how many stars does a collective roster have. But I think it kind of falls off a cliff when you're making an argument after 4. When is the last time that Oklahoma's been in that top 5 is a question I put to myself, and it's been some time. Whereas LSU has consistently been there the last couple of years. Guess what they're doing?
Yeah.
Clemson climbed that chart. Guess what they're doing? Alabama, Ohio State. Ohio State feels good about everything they're doing right now because they're that team that you described earlier when you're talking about you see dudes that can just roll in and play. Friggin' Ohio State loses the best player in all of college football probably for 4 games. For the rest of the season, they say, it's cool. We got 2 where that one came from. 2, Jerry. 2. You got 2 freaks on the defensive line behind a freak? Who does that?
No.
Who does that?
We saw it this weekend at LSU Bama. They had guys dropping left and right.
Yeah.
The new dudes showing up. They had guys even make the trip.
Man, golly. That one. Also, my favorite, you sent this tweet to me, of the LSU kids, like in uniform, running down to where they knew the Alabama recruits are and telling them to come to LSU.
Savage.
Yo, college football. Yo. That moxie. No, man. Forget Bryant Denny. Come down to Tiger Stadium. You know what it is.
Well, I've never been to Bryant Denny, but I've been to Tiger Stadium, and I'll say this: pro or college, I've never been in an atmosphere like that in my life.
No, I'm gonna get there. I'm excited about that team. I've been excited about that team for about, I don't want to say 3-4 weeks now, because I was late to the Joe Burrow party because I was skeptical. And then I did my due diligence after he started putting up some stupid numbers early on in the season. And just to find out how that kid is made and to find out how they revamped the entire LSU program to not only be at the forefront of football, but to fit the kids in a way that I wish more programs fit the kids when we're talking about from an athletic standpoint. And then, you root for Ed. You do. He's a little wired a little differently, and there's a lot of stuff in his past that he probably would do over again. But in as far as seeing a dude that you would like to see win a national championship, I could put Ed up there. Ed's a good dude.
But reading the SI article that was just out about him, I have to appreciate what he said when they talked to the athletic director about hiring him. He said, "Look, I want another chance." He goes, "I made a lot of mistakes at Ole Miss, and I want to make up for him."
Right.
And I think it takes a big man to understand what you did wrong and to grow from it and get better. And knowing people that have played for him and people that have worked for him, probably this second stint as a head coach, the best thing that he's done is he understands what his weaknesses are, and he's allowed people that are talented to make up for those and help in those areas. And by doing that, it's allowed him to do what he does best, which is be Ed Orgeron, leader of the crazy ass Cajun football team. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what Ed does best. I mean, if you want to they talk about stereotyping actors. After being the head coach at LSU, could he be the head coach anywhere else but LSU?
Oh, yeah. And we got it to show, but your point is taken. Like, I get your point. 'Cause,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I understand that. I also, this is a nice segue here. Ed got an opportunity a lot of guys don't get, or if they get it, they screw it up again, right? Because if you were betting on Ed Orgeron to be 9-0 with a win against a top 3 Bama team to show for it, you would have been laughed at 2 years ago.
But do you realize the only reason he's in the position he's in is because the state was broke?
Okay, well,
and they couldn't buy him out. That's what's so crazy about this. After the first year, what was their record?
They were like 9-4.
Yeah, 9-4 something, and it was like, he was a stopgap. We want to take him out, but we don't have the money to do it. And nobody wanted to write the check, so he stays another year. And I'm just saying, it's crazy. I mean, it's just fate. It's the way it's happened.
That's a glass half full look at it, because we've come to understand. People have money, and if they want you up at the blacktop, they will get you up off the blacktop. Take a look at Chad Morris. Take a look at Willie Taggart. Okay.
Wow.
So, like, no, I mean, you want to talk about who's more?
No, you're right. You're 100% correct.
So, like,
that's
why I'm saying that's glass half full. Is like, forget the budget. When it comes to a football coach, people will find the money if they don't like you. If they don't like you and they're tired of you, they will find the money to fire you.
Exactly, but it goes right back to what I was saying earlier, and the fact that Ed knew what he was weak at, and he got help with it because we knew what Ed was good at. He was good at recruiting, okay? He can recruit, and he can get talent, okay? And that is exactly what he's done. He's going to be in basically the CEO of the place and being the master recruiter.
But stop there.
Let me finish my point.
I was just saying,
go ahead.
You glossed over the CEO part. You glossed over it. That's why I was going. The master recruiter part we know about, right? We know about that part. Watching Ed Orgeron actually run a chief of staff meeting like because that was the top for me. You know, Bush, not everybody's favorite president, also not a horrible president, right? But he had the smart dudes in the room, smart women in the room, smart persons in the room, and he was able to just kind of let it go. I didn't know Ed Orgeron would be able to do that at his age after coaching football for so damn long. And I don't know.
Not only let it go, did you read in the, again, I go back to the SI article was written, the only guy they ever had weekly notes, weekly scheduled notes on a Monday morning.
In 15 years.
Stuff like that.
In 15 years. Yeah. And would listen to you and then say, go do it. You know, or the thing that you might have been suggesting he already put in. Or like a guy that, I got to underscore this for people. Ed Orgeron's spirit animal was Bull Cyclone. Okay? Bull Cyclone got a 20,000-word piece written about him in SI by Frank DeForge. One of my favorite pieces of sports writing ever of all time. Coached at East Mississippi Community College. And was famous for making his kids practice in swamps filled with alligators, for shooting at crop dusters because he thought they were spying on him. For making his kids walk home, that sort of stuff. And Ed is that dude. He was that dude at Ole Miss. And all of a sudden he gets to LSU, not all of a sudden, but like you said, he's in a place where he has to redefine who Ed Orgeron is. And he's going, no, we're only going to practice for 2.5 hours in a week? Think about that for a second. 2.5 hours a week. Nobody does that. It's like, well, they know how to play. We recruited talent. Let's just keep them fresh. Or Grant Delpit didn't practice all week. I know you read this.
Yeah.
And did he look ready to go to you? Look ready to go to me.
You know who used to do that in the late 1980s and early 1990s?
You gonna say Marv Levy?
Yep.
Okay.
No longer with stretch, hour and a half.
Okay.
We're running no huddle. 18 plays a team was done in about 10 minutes. Getting sat on the bench.
No,
waiting for the defense to do their deal.
I like it.
But I want to go back to the Ed thing, and as far as learning what his weaknesses are, and what I want to tie that into is what we were talking about earlier, which is Chad Morris and Willie Taggart. I think that Chad Morris got that job at Arkansas with the hopes and prayers that he would be able to recruit the state of Texas like they hadn't seen in a while.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for him, or maybe a verdict on a lot of these guys, being the master recruiter is not enough anymore. At some point, you got to coach and you got to run a team. And I'm surprised that he was in a tough situation to begin with, but still, I don't think that if you're going to fire Willie for what they fired him for, you're going to have to fire Chad as well. But the thing is that I think that being just a recruiter anymore nowadays is not good enough. You've got to be able to coach as well. That's where what Ed has done, I think, has been so amazing that, like you said, he's allowed himself to give up the reins on some things and to do what he does best. And that's why you're seeing the ascent of that team. Plus, let's face facts, okay? The best quarterback they've ever had, ever in the history of the program, is there right now, more than likely.
No.
What'd you think?
No. I think you're shading Tyler, but I understand why. I understand, or I should say Tyler. Ryan Mallett. I think you're shading him.
No, I'm not talking about Arkansas.
Oh, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about LSU.
Oh, yeah.
This whole thing with Orgeron and everything is great. But the day that Joe, the best decision ever made was when Joe Burrow showed up.
No, because like Joe Burrow showed up, and then they decided to give him an offense he knew what to do with, as opposed to this, relic from 1985. But I would gently fight you about Ryan Perrilloux. I would gently fight you about it. He couldn't keep himself together. But I would. It's interesting, right? It's a really interesting argument because I always thought that they had the dudes to run the sorts of offenses that other people were running.
This is where I thought you were going to walk to.
So it just, I mean,
the fact that Joe Burrow is the best quarterback they've ever had.
Oh my God, dude!
Or it's the fact that they have that they had other quarterbacks that were as good, but they weren't allowed to do what he's allowed to do.
I was about to say, all right. So where you have an argument for me right now is accuracy, right? And those boys just don't drop passes this year. So he puts it on them, they catch it, they go. But you really gonna tell me that Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. wouldn't know what to do if they had Ryan Perrilloux back there and put up all them numbers, Doug?
Oh, dude.
That's why I said to gently fight you. Gently fight you.
In there.
Okay.
In there.
Okay.
Seen that.
Just like, damn, dog. Like, where was Joe Brady 10 years ago?
Been there, seen that.
So, to your point about you can't just be a master recruit anymore, I'm going to throw some names at you. Nick Saban, Mac Brown, Dabo Swinney. Which one of those dudes is calling plays?
Which one's calling plays?
Yeah. It's a trick question. None of them are calling plays.
Right?
They're all like, the joke about Saban is that he would rather be out recruiting. Mac really loves to be out recruiting. He even likes to recruit other coaches. Just ask Bill Longo and Jay Bateman. Like, and Dabo and Ed speak the same language, right?
Right.
We're all shucks guys from the country. We're not even supposed to be here doing this.
They speak Seuss.
Right. And yet and still, who have the two highest paid defensive coordinators in the country?
Yes.
Right? And who says, to hell with what I get paid, make sure that Joe Brady doesn't take this job at Arkansas, okay? Let's see if we can do that. Which brings me around to a topic that it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. We should talk about it now. Who is the next head coach at Arkansas?
Well, I mean, it depends on, there's probably a lot of possibilities. The thing that we don't know about is there a Brady, is there an SEC, a high-level SEC assistant that they're looking at to bring over, i.e. what Tennessee tried to do to put a spark in their fledgling, struggling program. I think that we've seen that that's not quite as easy as we thought. I personally don't understand. There's two guys that I would hire right now. The one guy I would hire, again, you're going to call me crazy, is the master of reclamation. There's nobody that fixes things like Todd Graham. Todd would be a guy that could do it. But that's not going to happen. Okay? That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So we're going to go with the next best thing.
He said
We're
Ty
going to. I had to say that.
I'm never
I knew I was going to get this reaction.
Oh my
God! I'm going to tell you what. You can't hire. You're not going to hire Todd, but you're going to hire the next best thing, which is you're going to hire Mike Norvell from Memphis. I think that's the guy you probably. I think everybody in Arkansas probably wants.
Todd is already in there going, "Hey, I live here. I just bought a house last night."
Oh no, they did. Are you kidding me? They went freaking. What was the deal they used to have with the motorhome, where the motorhome showed up for the game day?
Yeah.
He's had that sucker outside the stadium for like the last 3-4 days.
Oh my god. Okay.
But no, I don't know if it'd be Todd or not. I don't know if he'd get any consideration, but he is a guy that has being serious now. He has a track record of fixing things.
He also has a track record of just jumping ship.
Right, exactly. But
no, I'm going to Arizona State. I got family here. I got family at Pitt too.
That was funny. But no, I mean, would you not think a guy like Norvell?
No, I want Norvell.
I mean, dude, does all of a sudden the end of the season become an issue? And Auburn finally does what they've been wanting to do for the last however many years, which is get rid of Gus, and then Arkansas hires Gus. Does Arkansas take him away without him getting fired?
I don't even think Gus wants that job.
If Gus was smart, he wouldn't want it.
No, I think Gus is smart, because if Gus wanted to flex in the direction of Arkansas couldn't run to him quick enough. He doesn't want the job. He likes being at Auburn, and I think, frankly, he likes being able to fight boosters. Like, I think that's just part of who he is. He's a weird cat to begin with, but Norvell, for me, just feels like the dunk. He's in Memphis right now.
Norvell's a dunk for me, not only because of his age and what he brings and all that. It's the fact that now being in Memphis, he's learned that part of the country recruiting-wise. And that's going to be that'll be a big area for him. I think recruiting all down through their relationships. To me, it makes too much damn sense, but usually when it makes too much sense and they go with something crazy.
Oh yeah. They're going to bring John L. Smith back in there for just a second.
Coach Kynes.
Get John L. Smith in here. Hey, John, we want to sign you to a 3-year deal. 3 years? Damn. I'm not going to be here forever. Like 3. What? How about I give you 6 weeks? How about 6 weeks?
They'll turn around and they'll hire Dan Hawkins.
It's college football. Go play intramurals, brother.
All I know is they can hire 1 or 2 people, which would be fine with me. The first one is Norvell, and the other one is Dykes. They can hire either one of them, because if they get rid of one of those two, then it makes the AAC a little bit easier.
Hold on, let me flip the tape, because I got to unpack this Dykes thing for a second. We're having too much damn fun. It's the last segment. So you said Sonny Dykes, and I swear to God, if they go back to the Southern method as well, right away, somebody's gonna get strangled.
Ooh, I didn't think about that.
See?
Ooh.
See?
Ooh.
You better not.
Ooh.
You bet not.
Ooh.
The Arkansas folks will come into your Jack's office with pitchforks.
I feel dirty now for saying that. Oh. Yuck.
You know who's probably like just throwing rocks at their window?
Who?
Luttrell. Seth Luttrell's throwing rocks at their window, and he's standing up there like John Cusack with the stereo above his head. So
what a great standing reference. Man. Oh
wow. Brian Harsin at Boise State's like, hey, I'm here. I was at Arkansas State. Remember that? I was over there in Jonesboro. I'm ready to come home. Just come on, come get me.
And we all know that they would never, ever, ever stoop to the low of hiring a person from Arkansas State to actually, take the reins at the mighty Arkansas and get them out of the hole that they're in.
Then they can't hire Gus Malzahn.
True. I don't know, man. I think Norvell makes too much sense. I also, like you said, is Seth Luttrell that guy? Mm-hmm. I just don't want somebody that here's my problem. I just don't want somebody that I really, really like to get in a bad situation.
No,
because
that
the program's
100%,
so broke.
100%. Because like,
You know what I mean?
I haven't said these names out loud, but who gives a damn?
Because I really like Norvell and I really like Seth. We've been down to North Texas and seen what they got going on. They've got really, really good stuff going on, and it's like if they're just patient, you would think something's going to be there. If they're just patient. I
want Glenn Schumann to get a look.
Well, my deal is this, RJ.
Glenn Schumann to get a look.
Say that again. Who is that?
Glenn Schumann. Glenn Schumann is the linebackers coach at Georgia, who I thought was a shoo-in to be the coordinator at Georgia after Tucker took the job at Colorado and ended up being his buddy and partner Dan Lanning, who got that job. But like, Schumann came up to the Thorpe Award dinner on behalf of DeAndre Baker to basically tell us all about how good he is. And then you go looking up Glenn Schumann and you find out raised in McKinney. Parents are teacher and principals in McKinney. Straight out of high school, goes to Alabama, comes up under Nick Saban right there as a student coach. So he's literally been coaching. I mean, he's about my age, but he's been coaching for a dozen years now. And he's followed Kirby out to Georgia and has been in Kirby's pocket the whole time. And when you hear him speak, you hear a head coach, and I don't even know that he would take that job or even give it a look. But I think I'm reaching the age now where I know so many of these guys and I've come up with them that they're in their 30s, they're in their mid 30s, early 30s, they're, we're that ilk, us millennials, that I find so many of these dudes that I personally have had interactions with and I know, and I'm like, nah, that guy is going to be one hell of a head coach. And maybe everybody felt that way when they were my age, but I can think of like 4 or 5 dudes right now that Arkansas would be lucky to get and could get them for cheap if they would just commit to them for 3 years. Give them 3 years to go get classes, they'll be good. That's me.
Let me ask you this question: Is Josh Heupel where he's always going to be?
Ooh, no, he's not. Man, and that's the thing though. Josh Heupel is a play calling head coach.
Is he a Power 5 guy?
He thinks.
Here's another question. You just brought it up. Let's walk this one out. And this is, man, we don't got enough time today. Are you going? Do you need? Do you don't need a? Or do you want a play calling head coach at Arkansas in the situation they're in?
If you can go either way, right? But I don't because the last guy they had that it worked with was Petrino.
Right.
And I get that they're ready to hire a Frank Broyles set of underwear or a Lou Holtz 1981 worn hat or a Bobby Petrino neck brace to coach this team, but I don't want that, man. I want somebody who has chops, but I also want a fresh young assistant. So I can go either way on this, but if the right guy is out there, then the right guy is out there. And here's underrated as hell, and you can come after me if you want. Shane Beamer has never taken an offensive coordinator job. Ever. He's been a recruiting coordinator, cornerbacks coach, DC, special teams coordinator, all these things, and you hear him speak, you hear a guy that's going to be a head coach. Kind of like with Grinch, but he's not under the same sort of scrutiny that Grinch is right now. If Grinch shuts out Kansas State and then shuts out Iowa State, he's probably getting the look right now. But Beamer has already been mentioned for like the Old Dominion job because it's close to where he grew up and it's close back to home and so forth, so on. But there's just a bunch of guys out there. I don't think you want to play, and he's not a play calling head coach, is what I'm saying. He's not a guy that's going to be out there with the play card. He's going to hire somebody else to do that.
Let me help you with that decision. There's a guy right now that he trusts highly that's available at the end of the season. They could travel to Arkansas and reinstate the lunch pail defense.
Lunch pail defense. Yeah, you gotta tell me.
Bud Foster.
Bud's retired.
Well, he retired for the present time.
Oh my God.
I don't believe Bud's done coaching football. I really don't.
I don't know, man.
Bud's 60.
Yeah.
Would an occasion we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but this dude probably at some point changed Shane Beamer's diaper.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's a relationship there that is amazing. Do you go ahead and say, I'll give you 2 or 3 years just to help you get started? And now all of a sudden, does that group of coaches you're going to bring over
I think Jerry's
look a lot different?
I think Jerry's writing stuff down in his notebook. That's what I think. No, man, I can't see that one. Just because there's too many other guys you could go get. Honestly, I would want somebody that doesn't have any ties to me. I don't want a Ruffin McNeil in my back pocket.
He's not Ruffin McNeil.
He's okay.
He's not even close to Ruffin McNeil.
I'm not saying that they're okay. Let's. I want to be careful about how I couch this. But Ruffin's a confidant and a great one, and a rudder. Right?
Yes.
And I don't know what Bud is to Shane, but you also don't want to put yourself in the position right away of doing that unless that's what you want to do. I don't know. Let's let Shane get a phone call. We got to get out of here.
My main thing, though, just real quick on that is we're just walking all these out. We're talking about them. But the thing is that I don't think the worst thing that and this is why maybe Norvell didn't work the first time, but he works now. He's had success. He's run a program, and he's proven himself. And you cannot bring in a flash in the pan guy right now with Arkansas. You have got. I'm going to say it again. That's why I thought the Chad Morris situation was so crazy. You have got to bring in a person you are willing to let get dirty and get their hands dirty and get after it and give them the 3 years, maybe even 4, because as a person like you that follows recruiting, you know just how much work they have to do to upgrade that roster.
But the goal right now for them would be as good as Mississippi State was this year. That would be the goal. And it doesn't feel like it's that far away, but that would be the goal. And then try to get to where Ole Miss was a couple of years ago, right? And here's the crazy one that we don't have time to walk out, that people are already walking out, is Hugh Freeze.
Oh, good.
I know. I said, and I'm saying,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, between him and like I almost wrote this joke to you about Mangino, Briles, Sandusky, and Freeze walking into a bar, and I might still write that joke for you, because I was like, which dudes would I just throw a chair at? If they walk that guy out in front of a microphone, which guy would I be like, no, do it over, cancel the damn press conference. This would be a Greg Schianoing, showing up going, nope, not that guy, under any circumstances whatsoever, not that guy. But they're just desperate enough to do it. And that's what's scary. Jerry, I got to let you go, man. Thank you.
That 20 minutes turned into 107, but that's all right.
Now put up the whole doggone thing, and I'll put it up in segments too, so people can consume it in smaller portions. So that'll be there. Jerry Ostrowski, director of premium seating at the University of Tulsa. So if you're looking to get club seats for next year, give Jerry a call. Also, one of my better friends. And strong as an ox, tough as a horse. Jerry, love you, man. Thanks for doing this.
Love you too, RJ. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother.